Okay, so a little disclaimer. Before this video starts, I talk about APIs, IDs, secrets, and tokens. I didn't blur it. So I'm just going to tell you that I'm going to delete that application. But ideally, when you go through the video, it's going to make more sense. Ideally, you should not post your ID, your secret, or token online at all. Okay, so without further ado. Alright, welcome to Data Extraction 2, Changes the End Result of All True Learning, Leo Biscaglia. I like that idea, I like that quote, okay? And so when it comes to today's material, what is an API? An API, long story short, is communication between two programs, okay? And so one can even argue it's like one program has a menu and it says, I want this, I want this, I want that. Or it says, I want to add this, or I might want to delete some items on that menu, or I can even update some items on the menu. And that's one perspective looking at that menu. But the thing is, this is not a web development class. We're not going to spend time on that. We're only going to be talking about getting elements, getting items off that menu, and analyzing those items. So some famous APIs that you might be aware of, or didn't know exist, AccuWeather, right? So say for example you have a weather app, and it's actually drawing or requesting information from a weather server or a weather website where it's getting the last 10 days or the next 10 days, forecast the next 10 days weather, or maybe the last month, or so on and so forth. There's APIs between R, for example, in Google, so you can actually extract your emails or even your events that are going to be on your calendar. And today we're actually going to spend time talking about Spotify's API, so that we can have our software be able to develop software to be able to gain access to information from Spotify. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. So in terms of Spotify's API, there's a couple things that we have to do in order for us to gain access to it. Okay, so we're going to go to the developer website. We're going to log in or sign up if you don't have a Spotify account. You're going to create an app. You're going to save those credentials in a secure location. I'll show you one that I already have, but I'm not going to show you. I'm going to blur it out. And then I'm going to have us install the Spotify project that a couple students and I worked on this past summer. And then we're going to finally get our access token. And this is the functionality that we'll be using. Okay? So with that being said, let's jump right into it again. Here, when you click on that actual website, you gain access. I'm purple now, I guess. You gain access to the this website. And so what you're going to do is log in or sign up. Okay, I'm logging using my Facebook account. Yes, I have a Facebook account. Okay, great. And then what I'm going to do with regards to my account, I'm going to dashboard. Okay, so traditionally speaking, you can create an app. So I'm not going to create one right now. I already have a couple of them already in the works. You create an app, you can set the app's name, set the actual app's description. You can say NA for website because you do not have a website. And then you can say NA for URI because you do not have a URI. Or URI, and then you can just click I understand the terms and conditions and save. Okay? So let's go back to... I'm back. Okay, so we'll go back to the page. We'll learn about Taylor Swift today. Okay, so I'm gonna click on this. All right, and so once you create yours, it's gonna take you to the screen. And then what you'll do is click on settings, and this is where you're gonna get your secret and your ID and your secret. Okay, so this is your login information essentially for you to be able to get a token from Spotify. So this is you identifying yourself so that Spotify can give you a token saying, whenever I use this token, this is who I am. Okay? And so that's just a unique way for them to identify each person. Again, this is huge for all APIs. There's a bunch of different ways of securing individuals' identities and making sure that this information is not stolen. That's why I'm doing my due diligence to blur out when I show you my API ID and secret. So this is where you'll find your ID, and here you'll find your secret. Okay? Alright, and so with that being said, and the thing is, you can rotate. You can actually regenerate them, but I'm not going to show it to you anyway. I'm going to practice what I preach. Okay, so then with that being said, let's go to R. Before we go to R, actually, we're going to take this, we're going to install this project, this package, okay, the Spotify project. Okay, so copy this, okay, and notice I am here within the console, because I don't plan to save this code or keep this code, so I'm just going to paste it here. Fingers crossed. Okay, let's see if this works. Yes. All right. So hopefully this should definitely work on your end. And if you have any issues, please email me ASAP. You're going to press 3 when this happens. You want to update nothing. You don't want to update anything. So press 3. Then we should be good. Good. All right. So then from there, what we'll do is we'll create a new R Markdown. Call it learning about Taylor Swift. Okay, that's nice. Okay. And then from there, I'm going to delete from line 11 down. Alright, I'm going to create a new R chunk, Control-Alt-I or Command-Alt-I. I'm going to do library tidyverse. So that's a famous library that is very useful. And without that library, Spotify will not work. Spotify package will not work. Spot T. Okay, doesn't want to auto correct or auto display. That's fine. Let's see. Let's run this. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Okay. No errors. No errors. Good job. All right. So then, with that being the case, again, so the primary purpose of what we're trying to do now is getting access to the token. So I'm gonna create a new R chunk, and I specify the R chunks based on what I'm doing. And so I know someone will say, I could have just put it in this one, but I like to be more intentional with my R chunks. So here, I'm just gonna do access token, and then get Spotify access token. Okay, so that's the first function right there. So I'm going to tap that and I'm going to get access to it. So in terms of this function, it wants two things. It wants the client ID and it wants the client secret. So it wants the client's ID and then it wants the client's secret. So again, I'm going to blur this out. So remember to blur this out. So I'm going to get this from my code. Pause it. Give me a sec. Okay. So then when I run this, okay, I'm going to get an access token. It gives me an actual access token. And so a couple places I have to blur out, then that's fine. But I shouldn't show you that either. I shouldn't show you my access token either. So all that is private. And then finally, in a new R chunk, remember, when it comes to these R chunks, there's various, not R chunks, sorry. When it comes to this API, the primary purpose is to be able to gain access to the server, another website, sorry. And one can even argue a database. And we want to be able to get certain information, watch the words, query certain information from that actual website. So we can even call it a server. Okay. And so from Spotify. And so we're gonna kind of do that here. So let's get Taylor Swift. So I'm going to use the function first. It's called get artist. You can see there's a lot of different functions that you can use. We're going to use get artist audio features. And the information that we want, we're going to use query. And query is going to be the actual artist's name. Say Taylor. You have to spell it correctly. Taylor Swift, comma, and then you're going to say authorization. And what do you think the authorization is going to be here? It should be access token. Okay. And I'm going to call this TS_DF. So TS is for Taylor Swift, and then DF is because it's the data frame. And I want to talk more about data frames as the semester goes on. Okay. Let's run it. See, it's taking a while because it's getting all her songs, I believe. So right here now, if you look at the environment, we click this, we can view the data frame. So this is artist Taylor Swift, her artist ID, album ID, so on and so forth. And you scroll across, scroll down. So yeah, that's good work. Let's move on. This is huge, okay? So because APIs, or at least a web API, what it allows you to do is to query a server or query a database. More exact, to be more exact. And that's one of the most technical ways of describing it. You're able to query a database. And so another way of looking at it is like you're able to ask questions to a database, which is nice and cool if you have access to it. Okay. Whereas web scraping, which HTML tab is doing, is actually just grabbing the data from the website. Okay. The website's there and it's just grabbing whatever is there. When you have an API and you have ID and you have the secret and so on, and therefore you have a token, this allows you to get more, this potentially has more, you have more access to more information that potentially may not necessarily be on the website, or that might require you to get information that's on other different pages. So APIs are good for that. But the thing is with APIs, and this is huge, this happens a lot. I actually got caught. I was trying to show you all something last week I got to not even show to you all, is because you can actually use an API way too. There's limitations to certain websites, so you can't keep requesting. I believe for Spotify it's like 700 within a day, and I've reached that limit before. And then at the same time, efficiency. API is a little, but at the same time, efficiency. API is a little bit more efficient. It's meant for you to retrieve, whereas web scraping using HTML tab, you're kind of like a pirate, and you're just trying to grab whatever you have to get whatever's on that website. And so it's nice to be able to utilize API. So I want you all to take a moment and answer these two questions. So it says, can you explain the differences between using an API and web scraping with HTML tab for data extraction? What advantages and disadvantages of each method? Just went over that, of course. So the API allows you to get information directly using your ID and secret to get your token, whereas web scraping, you're just getting whatever information is on that website. Whatever it's given to you. So I even mentioned this earlier, is that when it comes to web scraping, let's say the website can crash, or the website may not necessarily be available. But if you can argue if the API, if you have the API, if you're given access, then you're given access. So it's not like it's a functionality of the actual website. So why are secrets, IDs, and tokens crucial when working with APIs? What potential risks could arise if they are mishandled? And so these are used, or at least the secrets, IDs, and tokens are used just for you to gain access. So it's for authorization. Whereas the potential risk is that if people steal your ID, they can make a bunch of requests on that API, which will then therefore stop you from making that request, especially if there's a limit on it, or the number of requests that you're allowed to use or make. So that's important for you to note. Okay, so with that being said, I think we're able already to talk about viewing data. Okay, so technically we already did this, but let's go ahead and pretend. So we're going to access our token, but for instance, you might want to discover the top tracks by Taylor Swift. Let's consider a scenario where you're a music journalist and you need to write an article on the rise of Taylor Swift's career, knowing her top tracks can provide valuable insights into her popularity and the evolution of her music style. Okay, and so technically we did this, and we're able to actually look at the data frame. But let's talk about, I'm going to skip that for now. Let's talk about viewing data. So there's a couple ways of us viewing data. So the first two that I want to talk about is column names and view. Technically we've done view. So when I click view, at least type out view, TSDF, that's the same thing as us clicking on this data frame, on the data. Notice it says 418 observations, that's 418 rows and 29 variables, okay? But let's say I just want to know the names of those columns, for example. So we'll put this in new chunk, I'll be consistent. Got ahead of myself there. The function is called colnames. So this just lets me know what I have access to. Okay. Names. Okay, there we go. Here are the columns. We have key name, we have disk number, explicit, I guess it's if it's cussing or not, cuss words, track name, so on and so forth. Okay, so great, fantastic. The next thing that we want to do, or at least, yeah, why this is important, let me at least give you that. It's because at times you just want to know what information you have access to rather than looking at the entire data frame. And this can come up to be even more important if you want to change the column names. So be aware of that. If you want to also sometimes just get a quick glimpse of data, and this is also in the notes, let me just pull it up real fast, is to, and I'll come to that question in a moment, is to look at either the head or the tail of the actual data frame. I'll fix this in the notes, but it's going to be, head of TS or tail of TS, DF, okay? And so the head is the first 6 rows, and the tail is the last 6 rows by default. So if I do that, if I do head of TS, DF, it's going to give me the first 6 rows of the data frame. Now if I do the tail, it's going to give me the last 6 rows. But if I put 10 here, this is going to give me the last 10 rows, okay? So note that, okay? So there's a couple more ways of us actually viewing our data. And so, before we do that, let's go ahead and answer this question. When working with a large data frame in R, what function would you use to quickly view the column names? Ta-da! Column names. Okay? Good job. With that being said, if you needed a quick overview of the first few rows in the data frame to understand the structure, which function would you use and why? Ideally, you would use, right? The head function, okay? Just so you get the basic structure of the data, okay? Let's keep on going. And so now, if I want to see the structure of the data frame, what I mean by structure, what variables or columns are of a certain type. I will use the structure function, and let's see what that looks like so you can know what I mean by that. So if I create a new R chunk, and I do structure, TSDF, this is going to tell me each of the variables, so the columns, right? And it's going to specify the type, whether it's a character, number, if it's an integer, character, and we'll talk more about that as very, very soon in terms of data. But that's what structure does. And last but not least, just because of time, I'm just going to go ahead and just type it here. And the last function that we're going to look at today is called glimpse. Okay, glimpse, and that's TSBF. Okay, and what glimpse does is it's something very similar to structure, but it's a little bit more detailed. It's a little bit more detailed. It gives you a little bit more information regarding what is going on. Okay, so you can answer those questions in your notes. Thank you for today. I know it's a lot. I know you learned a lot. Please let me know if you have any questions, and have a good rest of your day.